Welcome. We bid you welcome. John Clauser, Johnny Metal, the Metal Dad, coming to you from my music corner of the world. And let's see, on my screen, I guess it would be to my, I'm looking at him to my left. You'll see him on your right. I don't know. I get all these left rights mixed up. Of course, my faithful co-captain, John the Music Nut. How you doing, my friend?
Rapid fire between the eyes. Rapid fire terrifies. How are you all doing?
Oh
Welcome,
man,
Jake. Welcome, Angus.
that's right. We got everybody's favorite Ripper Owens era Priest fan, Jake, not from State Farm. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great. Glad to be back as the unofficial third host, I guess, for the Ripper
I
Owens
love it.
Judas Priest
I love it.
series.
I love it. I love it. And first time on the channel, first time on the series. You've probably seen him in the comments. You've probably seen him in the live chat if you've been joining us. Mr. Manguss DC.
All
Welcome,
right.
my brother. How do you
Thank
doing,
you
my
for
friend?
having me. Thank you for having me. This is such a pleasure
Yeah.
because,
Oh man, I
let
am
me tell you, I really appreciate it because, this series, just as much as the Wasp series, which I follow casually since the first episode, this has been so much fun. So, thank you for having me.
oh man, I'll tell you what.
Thank you.
If anybody hasn't gone back and looked through the comments on this on throughout this entire series, Mangus is laying it down. He has got some great stuff that he throws. He's throwing on just about every single album. So I cannot fault that. I think that it's just an absolute testament. I was like, we got to get him on here for something. So um while I am looking this up, because I forgot to make my notes for this album really quickly. So today, and this was kind of Mangus's doing, because there was him and a few other people.
Nice.
But today we are going to take a look at 98 Live Meltdown. Of course, this was the first live album that we would have with Ripper on vocals. Let's see. I'm just trying to get to my thing here. Sorry. I'm just like, there we go. There we go. Okay. 98 Live Meltdown. So this was recorded throughout the Jugulator tour of 1998, released in Japan on September 17th, 1998, and outside of Japan on the 29th of September of 1998. On the SPV label, Steam Hammer label, 2 hours and 2 minutes and 31 seconds. So this is basically you're getting pretty much an entire live show for the most part here. Only 3 charts. 3, not a whole page and a half like I had to do with the last 3 or 4. The German shots, number 63. The Japanese charts, number 28. UK rock and metal, number 23. So, boom, already got the charts out of the way. Producer on this, of course, was Judas Priest and their the Jugulator producer Sean Lynch. So we have that team, of course, Mark Wilkinson doing the meltdown kind of looking cover here, as it were. So now this one, we're not going to be breaking it down track by track. We're just going to kind of share just overall thoughts and just be kind of an overall conversation for the most part. But before we do all of that, just like we have done with every other guest we've had on this show, Mr. Manguss DC, what was your point of entry into Judas Priest?
All right. So, my point of entry with them is actually pretty complicated in a way because it was like on the Painkiller time. I remember somebody showed me the Painkiller title track, and I absolutely hated it. But it was incredible. It was just like something that probably I wasn't ready for at the time. Remember that I was like 13 at the time. So fast forward a few months, I remember being huge into Guns N' Roses at the time, still I am. But basically, they were showing a recap on TV and streaming that in Italy as well, where I used to live, of the Rock in Rio Festival, the second edition, which was 1991. Guns N' Roses were the headliners. Megadeth, INXS, Billy Idol, Sepultura, so many bands. It was a fantastic show. Judas Priest were the second headliner after Guns N' Roses on the Metal Night. So they showed a few songs by them. And I remember still not liking them, but at the same time, I couldn't get them out of my head after seeing the performance. I remember that they showed Painkiller again. They showed probably Hellbent for Leather, and I don't remember what other songs at the time, but it wasn't the whole show. And then luckily I had, like most of us, we always have like the cool uncle, the cool cousin or something like that. So there was this guy that married one of my cousins, and he was like a big metalhead, a little bit on the DL because you couldn't tell at all that he was a metalhead, but like he had all the Judas Priest, Iron Maiden, Scorpions, Wasp, every big band's albums on LP to date, and he gave me Unleashing the East and Defenders of the Faith, and he was like, you know what, go home, listen to these, and just let me know. I put on Unleashing the East. It was like love at the first note, and I've been on the on the train since then. So that was absolutely still 91. That was when I literally started to dig down into all the discography and loved every bit of it. Now, oddly enough, Painkiller is one of my favorite albums. So,
Okay.
so it's strange how it goes sometimes, right? And but yeah, absolutely, right
Cool.
back. One of my favorite of all time.
Now,
Together with Wasp, which obviously that was our first connection.
that's right. Yeah, that's right. Because he was commenting and we were kind of going back and forth on Facebook and different things. And yeah, when he started commenting on this, I'm like, oh, wait a second. So yeah, that was great to have that connection of those two
Absolutely.
bands.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
very,
So
very cool. So I have to ask, you've gotten your Wasp tickets already for this next tour, right? Or are they coming anywhere close to you?
they're not coming any close to me, and I'm debating, to be honest with you, for several reasons. The first one being um I don't want to call them backing tracks because they are pretty much like forward tracks by now. So meaning I'm not trying to criticize the band or anything like that. I still love Black Heat to death, but the point is, like, I know the band too well to ignore that some of the videos that I saw, the vocals are exactly those on the album. So I don't know how to feel about that. And quite honestly, I saw Wasp a few times, and it was always great. My favorite one was when Roberts was on guitar, and both him and Seth Howland were great singers. So most of the backing vocals were actually live. Everything was raw as it should be. It was pretty good.
Right.
Nothing against backing tracks because, for example, what they were doing on the KFD Industrial Vibe, nothing against that. I love it. But by now it's getting a little much. Plus, just doing the first album with nobody from the first album, even like in the same continent, I suppose. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think I don't it's like the Skid Row situation.
Right.
It ain't gonna happen. Anybody looking for Chris and Rainey to suddenly show up? Sorry, folks. It ain't gonna happen.
Absolutely. Which I respect is not really a problem. It's just like at this point, I'd rather go and listen to something new than not just the first album.
Right.
Like,
But all right, well, thank you. So thank you for bringing back the Wasp Wednesday series. Well, we needed to
yeah.
do that, so that's a good thing. Um,
Sorry for digressing, but
no.
Oh
That's
no.
a good. That's good points. It's all good points. So, because I think it'll lead into what we'll talk about with Live Meltdown here. So,
absolutely.
but before we do, how many times have you seen them in concert? Referring to Judas Priest.
Only four.
4.
And
Okay.
so my first time was actually on the Jugulator tour, which is the one documented in Meltdown.
Right.
And then I saw them just a handful of years later with Demolition. That day was the Gods of Metal, but John Music Nut actually commented like on the Demolition episode. And that was my first day seeing Wasp because they were on the same festival.
Ah,
Nice.
okay. Very cool.
And then I saw them. I missed them during all the reunion phase and stuff. So unfortunately, I never saw KK and Rob together. But I saw them again, and that was my last time seeing them in Italy on the Epitaph tour. And then I saw them for the only time here in the US just a handful of years ago. What was it, 2021? When they were on the 50th anniversary here in Raleigh.
Okay.
So, yeah.
All right. So
Nice.
Always
So-
great.
always great. Yeah, that's the one thing we've learned about the at least the 3 albums that we've covered. We know Unleashed in the East has some help with the studio, as we had learned that there was the studio tracks were, or the live tracks were, the vocals were shot, but so Rob wanted to make them right. Maybe Priest live, I think is a pretty much a straight up, but there's probably a little help there too in some spots. What are our thoughts about Live Meltdown? Jake, if you want to be the first one to go first with this one.
Okay, well, I didn't realize this until I was listening to it the other night, and it dawned on me this was actually the first live album I owned.
Ooh.
And yeah, it was 2001 when I bought, because I listened to this, Jugulator, and Demolition all in one night, and I bought them all shortly after. This was the first live album I owned, because bands that I grew, the 2000s rock bands, they didn't do live albums at the time. So this was the first live CD I ever bought. And I was like, okay. And then the other thing that I of course I mentioned this on the Jugulator one. Songs like let's see here. Beyond the Realms of Death, Painkiller, Touch of Evil, Nightcrawler, Diamonds and Rust. That was the first way I heard these songs, was on this one. If it wasn't on Hellbent for Leather to Defenders of the Faith, I hadn't probably heard it. So that was the first way I heard these songs, was with Ripper singing them. I distinctly remember not liking Beyond the Realms of Death. I thought it was slow and boring the first time I seen it. Now, as I've told John Clauser, of course, I work in the healthcare field. It is one of my favorite, not just my favorite Priest ballads, but it's one of my favorite ballads of all times. I've been in that shoes. I've washed and bathed and taken care of the people that can't do that, and I've seen that, and I've administered the morphine to the people on hospice cares, and I've taken care of hospice patients and people that are just so far gone. There's that empty shell and there's nothing. That is a beautiful song. And when Ripper sings it, whether it's on this one or live in London, and Rob too, when he sings it live too, there is so much emotion. Like the live versions of Beyond the Realms of Death far surpass, I think, the studio versions. Absolutely just beat the studio versions. I'd rather listen to the live versions than the studio version on that. And I like the studio version on Beyond the Realms of Death too.
Oh yeah.
And Stained Class, I think, might be my favorite Priest album.
Okay.
The other song I really, really want to highlight is Nightcrawler. The live version of Nightcrawler is killer. Absolutely killer. It has this heavy rawness, it comes out of the gate firing. Not that the studio track doesn't, but there's no other live version that I know out there as on a CD other than this one.
Mm.
And it slays it. And I remember Painkiller. This was, again, the first time I heard Painkiller. I remember hearing this. I was like, what is this? The drums on that thing, you hear that and you're like, whoa. Well, I can only imagine how you guys got to hear it in real time on the studio track. But you're sitting there and you're listening to it live on this CD, and all of a sudden, it's kind of like a left field turn, because it ups the ante hardcore.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and it throws you off because you hear the motorcycle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And
And you're thinking Hellbent for Leather is going to come on.
yeah, and then you get Painkiller and those drums, those indistinguishable drums, just set up and go crazy. And the other thing I want to point out is because I know I really critiqued this on the Jugulator episode, Ripper singing. He seemed to just give it everything he could on a lot of songs. On here, like Abductors, he doesn't do so many vocal hoops and go through everything he can. It's more dialed back, and I love the live version of Abductors. Absolutely love it. It gets to be a chore after you listen to it a couple times on the studio track in one week. But here, I could listen to it 5-6 times in a row and never get tired of it. He doesn't go up and down and do every single thing he possibly. It's a great Bullet Train too is another great live one. I love Bullet Train. And Bloodstain, he slays on Bloodstain too. And I don't think Bloodstain gets enough credit lyrically as that came out in '96 and it's about war profiteering.
Yep.
There wasn't really much going on for wars back then at that point in time. It was a rather peaceful time. I mean, and they're writing a song about war profiteering.
Yeah.
This is just, and then the crowd participation. I don't remember which song it is, but one of my favorite things on here is before one of the songs, you hear some guy yell, "Blood red skies, blood red skies."
I heard that. I heard that too, because I was listening to it with the headphones and I heard that. I'm like, oh yeah, there you go.
And it cracks me up every single time I hear that.
But that was like that was how real the recording was. It wasn't just, let's record and let's add all the crowd noise and all the other stuff. No, that was direct from your pocket recorder kind of recording almost.
Yeah, that would be like if Queensryche recorded something. I'm sure you'd catch me yelling, "Eddie Jackson!"
Yep.
And then the Ripper, the live version of the Ripper on here.
What's my name?
Yes, what's my name? What's my name? And Ian's bass on there. It sounds like it's turned up quite a bit from the studio recording.
Yeah.
It's so good. This is, like I said, this was my first live album, and it's still one of my favorites to this day. This and Live in London, really, really good. The live version, I'm pretty sure it's Beyond the Realms of Death on Live in London when Ripper introduces that. It's a sad song on Live in London. He says, "It's a sad song." It is. It's a really sad song. And then on this one, he has another funny comment at the end of Beyond the Realms of Death. I'm pretty sure that's the first time I've seen people crowd surfing to that song.
I mean, like here again, you could tell that it's not your Long Beach Arena. It's not your Hammersmith Odeon. This is more of a smaller type of venue, I'm guessing. And so, they weren't playing to 10,000, 15,000 seaters, I'm guessing, throughout this tour. So you got a lot more of an intimate type of audience. So yeah, you could get these crowd surfers. So yeah, you gotta love that. How about you, John? What kind of thoughts you got with this guy?
Well, the thing with this album is when you're playing to smaller crowds, you're getting the more rabid crowds, you're getting the more dedicated crowds. The crowd is like the sixth member of Judas Priest on many of these tracks. And that it's kind of like watching a live sporting event. When you're playing or performing in front of a crowd that's really into it, that's going to really up your game. And it makes the whole performance better. And it really does on this album. Now, the performances on here are excellent. I think their performances on here are stronger than on Priest Live, because Priest Live has a very good song selection, but they're not really deviating much. They're kind of just playing it straight. And a lot of times I think the studio versions have a lot more passion to them. Not so on this one. I mean, here it's like Ripper brought a spark into him on this album. And the songs from Jugulator fit in. And I think they're stronger here than on the studio version because, as Jake said, Ripper's not trying to show you everything he does. He's singing what's best for the song. He doesn't. Oh, I think there might be one or two songs on here where I thought I wouldn't have oversang on that part, but the rest of it, he's just bringing it. But he's staying in his lane, but he's also showing you his talent too. Now, Touch of Evil, I think the crowd rapport on that is excellent. I love the soccer chants on here, on a lot of these songs. Rapid Fire, which I quoted earlier, that was where our friend Ripper Owens added lyrics to the song. And this is a killer version. And then he sings in a higher register during that bridge. That's insane. I mean, to me, this is the definitive version of Rapid Fire. Like when I hear Rapid Fire, like I just saw Rapid Fire live 6 weeks ago. And I mean, it was still pretty cool, but it wasn't this. I mean, this is fantastic.
And I'm guessing Rob didn't add those extra lyrics into this.
Oh, no. No, he didn't do that. I mean, he still sang it well though. Yeah. Beyond the Realms, I think this is a wonderful version of Beyond the Realms of Death. The guitar solos on here are so magnificent, and Ripper's vocal is just outstanding. Victim of Changes, I think, is very well done on this. Wonderful version. I mean, I'm not saying he's Rob Halford, but he's so close on this. And that's saying Rob Halford is one of the best metal vocalists, bar none. Fantastic version here. And the crowd participation is so strong on that as well. I love Diamonds and Rust. Mellower.
Yes.
You could, those counter bass lines you hear from Ian there work perfectly. It's a mellow song until the very end, when then the electric guitars and Scott's drums kick in, and those vocals that Ripper is putting in there will give you goosebumps. I think this is the best version of Diamonds and Rust by Judas Priest. Painkiller, again, the crowd is so into it. They're playing this even with more passion than the original version. And the first time I heard Painkiller was seeing the video on MTV. and it was one of those holy shit moments, because you had Ram It Down with Johnny B. Good as the video. And then you had Turbo before that. So they're going into this totally different direction. You're like, jaw drop. And it's spectacular. Great version on here. Death Rose, very menacing. The thing about, which is really cool on here, the crowd singing along with the new songs. Yes. Excellent. I think this sounds live. This sounds very live to me, much like Double Live Assassins for Wasp. It's that kind of recording. It's raw. You know, maybe there was a little bit of backing vocals there during Bullet Train. Maybe there was something put in there. I'm not sure if Glenn and KK would have been doing that. Outside of that, this sounds very live, feels very live. It's a great song selection. Here's another thing. They're sticking with the heavy stuff. You got no Point of Entry songs. You got no Ram It Down songs. You got no Turbo songs. You got no Rock-a-Rolla songs, but they don't hit rock-a-roll too often. So you're getting 5 songs from British Steel, and you're getting 4 songs from Painkiller on here. And then you're getting a good smattering of the other stuff. I would have liked a little more from Stained Class besides Beyond the Realms of Death, but it's just minor. But excellent live document here. It's not quite this. This is for our old school fans, the cassette. But definitely, if you can get your hands on this, buy it. This is easier to find these days than Jugular and Demolition. I found this at my local record store for $9, 2 CDs. And I bought this before those albums. I bought this before the pandemic. Excellent live album, latter-day live album. And the thing with Ripper these days, I think on the KK's Priest albums, I've said this a few times, he's over-singing too much. Here, he's not. He's singing for this song 99% of the time. And what any ad libs he brings in, are only enhancing the song. I give this an 8.5 out of
Right.
10.
We keep
I love
forgetting
it.
to talk about the logo change.
That's true too. Yep. Just like it we had on Jugulator.
Yep.
They were like doing little nuances with the logo here and then Demolition too.
Yeah, they changed the entire logo for the Ripper era, and we've never once mentioned it.
That's
So
true.
is that, do you guys think that is because like Rob maybe maintained some rights on the logo and they couldn't use it at the time?
Never thought about it,
That's
but it
possible.
could be.
I mean, they weren't on the Columbia Epic label, so that's a good point. That is a very
I don't
good.
know. I kind of have like a feeling like I read something from KK at the time saying like it doesn't matter who came out at the time with whatever idea, but the band should be the band. At the time, it was very bitter with Rob, so I don't know
Right.
if that was one of the references.
Now, Mangus, now you're a musician, as we can tell by all the different things behind you.
Yeah.
Now, my ears detected maybe a little bit of down tuning on some of these on a lot of the songs.
It's a whole step on
Okay.
everything.
All right. That's what I thought it was quite a bit lower than
Yeah.
normal.
Oh yeah. They're all a whole step down. Yeah, actually. And
Okay.
yeah. To be honest with you, I don't think it works very well on all the songs. But it might not be just because of the tuning. It's probably also the choice of the sounds at the time. They were very hardly trying to stay relevant with what was going on at the time, as we obviously noticed on Jugulator. The guitars are so much more, let's say, Mesa Boogie and not so much Marshall anymore. Which literally they lose, especially Glenn's guitar on this album. That is one of the things that I'm not too enthusiastic about the album. Glenn's guitar loses a lot of definition, while
I agree with that. Yes.
yeah, KK's guitar is still a little more medium frequency, louder, so you can still hear the old sparks and stuff like that. But yeah. Like I was saying, this was my first time seeing Judas Priest live. In fact, for nostalgic purposes, who remembers the old stubs?
Oh,
Oh, nice.
oh,
Oh, nice.
that's nice.
I still have it. Gorefest opening, which is a very interesting choice because, like, at the time when they came out, Gorefest was like a grind death metal band. It was like something quite different. But at the time, they were promoting like a more stoner almost oriented album, which is actually very good and still a pretty interesting choice. Like I was saying, I think this album personally has a very important role in their discography because of like a few factors. First, if you notice, we almost have like this 10 years to 10 years appointment with a live album that defines their decades because like Unleashing the East is 78, 79, Priest Live is 87, and then we have this one. Now, obviously, it's a huge change here to be documented, which is the absence of Rob Alford. But unfortunately, in between, we don't have so many albums, and one of them, like John pointed out, is completely ignored, which is Run Me Down. So we have literally 2 albums to judge the new material since Priest Live. But in my, even when the songs finally repropose themselves from the previous albums, which is also a new factor because the other 2 albums have completely different set lists, it still sounds like a different band because like Breaking the Law from Priest Live and Breaking the Law here might as well be a different band if you notice that like it's totally different sound, different singer, of course, different scenario, different era for metal and everything. I like to almost put them in this perspective. Um, Unleash in the East, you hear a band that is really hungry and angry as well. So they are trying to literally conquer the world or whatever. Priest Live is a band at their peak. They are like rock stars. They have like 30,000 people in front of them, and you hear them all on the record because the crowd is huge. Here is a band that is trying to take it back because of course everything has changed, the scenery has changed, new bands have taken their power, so to speak, because like we don't have at the time, all that was 80s was considered to be absolutely ridiculous or something like that, unfortunately. but it was what it was. And in that sense, I think the Ripper never stood a chance. Because let's be honest, and I love Rob Halford to death, but Ripper is fantastic. He's an incredible singer that still to date, he hasn't lost an ounce of his range. He hasn't lost an ounce of his power. But, and that's not the band's fault because the band did a very good thing with their latest members. Scott Travis, the beginning of like a Painkiller, I'm pretty sure it's clear to everybody. So they tried to really enhance Scott Travis in that era, and everybody loved him. They did the same with Ripper. In fact, I think also the mix in this live album puts the vocals pretty much out there. The vocals sometimes is way louder than the instruments in certain spots. Maybe they wanted to, I don't know, get back at Rob. Who knows? At the time, maybe that was it. And Richie Faulkner as well, like obviously is carried like a god today because like they really like do everything they do thanks to him. Let's be honest. And they're doing some fantastic music still nowadays, luckily for us as well. So another thing that I think is very important about this album is the fact that for the first time it is recorded, or at least portions of it is recorded in Europe. So you have 3 continents in 3 different live albums. And it is the first time that we have an actual compilation, because like the first one and also Priest Live, if I'm not mistaken, they were both taken from maybe just 1 or 2 dates.
Right.
While this one is a compilation of different sections of the tour. In that sense, I believe that also this one has its own importance because it's the first time that we have an actual show from start to finish, no edit. But I believe that Meltdown is the last relevant live album because honestly, between Meltdown and London, there is not so much substance in between. There is only one album, and a lot of parts are similar. So it's kind of superfluous a little bit. To mean that in a disrespectful way, but like it is what it is. And obviously, also the other thing I mentioned, Scott Travis is the first time that he appears in a live album. And that's another important thing about the first 3 live albums. That is also 3 different drummers, and you hear totally different approaches because the guitars play differently with, besides the songs, but they play differently according to who is behind the drums, pushing them. And like John was saying, I think definitely Rapid Fire and Diamonds and Rust are by far my favorite ones. They are like highlights. And oddly enough, there are two songs that they didn't play in Milan, so I hate them for that. But this,
Oh man.
but hey, that was a good surprise on the CD. What can you say?
Oh.
But yeah, no, definitely that's. Oh, by the way, I remember during the Jugulator episode, probably John Music Nut, you were saying something about uh, the added lyrics on Rapid Fire being added in the studio. Was
Well,
that
I didn't think they were out in the studio. I thought they were. I thought he just improvised them live.
okay? Because like I don't know if you know, I don't know if any of you has the bonus material for Demolition, in which actually there is a studio version of Rapid Fire re-recorded.
I have
Oh.
heard of that. Yes.
Yes.
That's like one of my holy grails.
Yeah. By the way, signed by Ripper. So let me brag about that.
Let me just shove that in your face.
Way I have it here too. So let me brag.
That's awesome.
No, besides that, they have like a bonus tracks on Demolition, Rapid Fire in the same version of the live, basically just in a studio version, and a terrible re-recording of Green Manalishi.
Oh, it's bad.
It's bad. It's slow. They played it slow, almost like at a Black Sabbath doomish kind of like tempo, and you are like, why?
I've
But
never heard any of these tracks because I plan on buying it someday, and I've never gotten around to it. It's like one of my, like I said, a holy grail of mine.
sorry, don't want to ruin the surprise.
No, you're fine.
Well,
You're fine.
At least you get one good. You get one half that's
Oh,
good.
of
So
course.
He's motivating me to go track this down sooner rather than later and buy
Absolutely, absolutely.
Just worth
And-
noting, though, the original Green Manalishi by Fleetwood Mac is slower.
It
it.
is.
It's a
That is
terrible
correct.
song. It's meant to be a free song. I don't like the Fleetwood Mac
Oh,
version.
I like Priest's version more.
Mhm,
But when it was first written, it's almost like half speed, you know?
mhm.
Yeah.
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 The weird thing, another weird thing about the Green Manalishi, Ian Hill's bass lines on there are some of his more complicated like I love Ian Hill. When people want to know a good metal bass player to start with, Ian Hill is a safe place. He doesn't add a lot, like 85% of his stuff. He doesn't add a lot of extra bullshit. He is a great place to start. Now you get to Jugulator and he starts adding some more stuff in there. But he is a good, but you go to Green Manalishi or even Beyond the Realms of Death. For Ian Hill, man, that is a bit extreme, man. You look at that and you're like, my God, dude, you were actually putting in a lot of effort here. I don't know if anyone wants to touch this as a beginner.
Yeah, it's a good thing they didn't bring out Run to the Mill or something for this.
Oh, yeah.
'Cause that's a pretty grooving bass line there.
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
But so compare the show you saw, Mangus, to the CD, and like what other than Rapid Fire and Diamonds and Rust, pretty much the same songs, or
Pretty much the same set list, yeah. And it was a very, very nice show. It was actually not a too small venue where they were, but like I want to say maybe it was like between 5 and 10,000 people. I'm
oh
not
wow,
exactly sure, but it wasn't a small venue. But it was also the only Italian concert that they had for that tour specifically. Now, something that John mentioned earlier, yes, it was Glenn Tipton doing the backing vocals on Bullet Train and
Okay.
the song. He has some effects on the vocals that made it sound like a sort of like robotic growler or
Okay.
something like that. But it was him singing a lot of
Very
stuff. And I remember, for example, the "What's My Name" part. Not only that, but also the Bloodstain part where Ripper makes the crowd sing. Of course, you have to consider the fact that I was like still very young at the time. I was like maybe 20, I don't know. And I remember seeing a lot of much older people at the show, and everybody was bitter. Before the show, they were like, I don't want this guy, I want Rob back. So to me, when he was like, "What's my name?" in my mind, I was like, "No, don't do that. Don't do that. Nobody's gonna answer."
Mhm.
Uh,
But the funny part is that he won over everybody
yeah. I mean, gosh,
because
Awesome.
how many times have we heard those kind of stories? You know,
right.
Jakey Lee had to fight for respect,
Mhm.
with
Yeah,
Ozzy. Uh,
Doug Blair with
Doug
Wasp.
Blair, I'm sure, is still what
absolutely.
Oh God,
Chris Holmes better be back on that stage. And
no, I heard that at the show I went to in line, waiting to get inside. And
you
then
know,
Doug plays the idol, and everyone's like,
Yeah,
Yep.
yep. Uh, I'm sure there's lots of other examples that we can come up with
examples.
here.
Yeah,
But yeah, I mean, he wins them over. I mean, and Ripper was, uh, judging from the pictures, he looks like he could fill in very well as the stage general type of kind of thing. He he
yeah.
he has a command to him.
He was comfortable. He wasn't arrogant or anything like that, but he was comfortable. So that's what you want.
Right.
And you can tell right away, even here, where he wins everybody over. And it is right at the beginning. At the end of the solo for Electric Eye, he lets he lets go a scream that doesn't make any sense, and everybody's cheering like crazy on that because it's goosebumps material.
Mhm.
So from there on, everything is set for him to have like a good show.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, because then this if that didn't happen, this wouldn't have came out.
Yep.
right.
Let's
Pretty
face it.
much.
If he didn't win that crowd over, then there's no chance that album was ever going to come out.
Absolutely.
So man, super thoughts. Real quick, just the only things I have that I'm going to really throw out, because I don't really have a whole lot to add to all this stuff, but I agree with you, Mangus. Glenn's guitar way down, way down in the mix, especially on those solos. It's like, what's the one thing we would talk about on Priest Live? They do those twin harmony stuff, and it's like everything just falls out
Yeah.
Mhm.
because you don't have that extra beef. Well, when KK's doing his solo, and Glenn's back there, well, you kind of want that beef guitar to be up there, and it's not there. I heard that quite a number of times, but again, I'm thinking there's no studio touch-ups on this thing, and it's pretty much a straight up thing. Um, I thought maybe a couple times I thought Ripper was going a little overboard, like on Electric Eye. I thought there was parts where he was singing, he didn't need to go higher than the original vocal or something like that. But still he still does it well. I liked Grinder. That was a nice surprise. I thought that was good. I thought the Jugular songs here sounded not as abrasive and not as great and not as harsh as the studio versions do. It fit that live setting. So songs like Bloodstained and Burn in Hell, and of course, Bullet Train, of course, Death Row following Beyond the Realms of Death, I thought was also kind of interesting.
Yeah.
So I thought, okay, that's an interesting thing. I love the "What's my name?" I love that. I thought that was great. The Painkiller songs, Metal Meltdown and Nightcrawler. I thought good things. I thought Ripper singing the echo parts, in Nightcrawler was a little odd to me.
Yeah.
But it still works. I thought Doctors was great. Victim of Change is great. Um, I loved the slowed down Diamonds and Rust. I thought it was if you're going to do something totally different with one of their songs, that was the way to do it. And we need a studio version of that. I would go,
Yeah.
I would love a studio version of it. After that, it's pretty much, everything's all we've heard all of these songs before, just maybe not with Ripper singing them. So, Breaking the Law, Green Man, Unleashed, Painkiller, You Got Another Thing Coming, Hellbent for Leather, and Living After Midnight. I mean, all songs we've all heard 100 million times. We just never heard it with Ripper before. So does he add anything really different? No. he just brought his own style to it, and I thought it was still really good. Yeah, I would have liked to have seen the band in this era. I think that would have been really cool. But I never got to see him at all. So anyway, so I have y'all are, I'm envious of each and every one of you. But anyway, no, very good live album. At some point, I'm sure I will track down Live at London and just so I can hear it and other stuff. But I think Mangus brought up a very good point here. As far as live albums go, this was probably the last significant one to talk about. That I think that's a great point. Because after that, it's just,
The same.
the same kind of stuff pretty much. There's really nothing groundbreaking different here, because did they do a live with Richie yet?
Yes.
They did. Okay.
Battle Cry.
They've done a couple.
Okay. Battle Cry. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So you do have stuff with Richie.
No,
So
Touch of Evil wasn't with Richie, was it?
No, there was KK.
that was still KK.
Mm-hmm. It's a good one.
So, I mean, you could make the argument, sure, we could talk about those, but I really think this is probably the last of the significant ones. So, I'll tell you what, this was just a great discussion. Thank you for encouraging me to to include this in here, because this was good. Let's see, what have we got anything we need to be plugging from each of you guys? I know John's doing he's got a lot of different things he's doing between, if it's not with me, is with Grant, Grant's Rock Warehouse. But yeah, is there anything else that I don't know about, John?
No, that's it.
That's
I
it.
mean,
Okay.
I got something lined up with Peter soon, but I'm not sure when we're gonna do it. I did that Cramp show with him a couple of weeks ago, but he hasn't put it out yet. So, but
Okay.
he's got a lot of stuff he's been putting out. He's put out In Defense of Saxon's Innocence Is No Excuse today.
Yeah.
I
I need to go check that
out.
out. I need to check that out too. So, because now that John and I got to see Saxon together,
Right.
and I bought the CD, so now it's just a matter of time just going through the collection and now listening to all this stuff. But yeah, I seem to remember that was the one that kind of got a little slack.
They went LA.
Yeah.
They went LA on that album.
Yeah, that's kind of what I thought.
That's not the one with
that's with the girl eating the apple.
Yeah, but that's not the one that has the Christopher Cross cover, is it?
No, that's on Destiny.
Okay. They're right next to each other. One follows the other, though.
Hey, actually, Rock the Nations was in between them.
Oh, okay.
I think Rock the Nations is the one that really gets the flack. But if I remember.
I'm sorry, it's not a good album.
Compared to Change of Address.
It's still better than that, though.
We're bringing Change the Address back. Change of Address.
It's still better than that.
we really are going to do something along that line, believe it or not, folks. That actually is going to come in the future. So watch this space. Let's see. Jake, have you been able to get involved in anything outside of helping us out here?
Sadly, no.
Okay.
I do have a question for Mangus, though.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel the guitars on Live in London are less Mesa Boogie than on Meltdown?
Not Glenn's.
Not Glenn's. Okay.
I think Glenn is still indulging in that modern thrash kind of sound at the time. That personally, I don't think fits the style of the band too much. There's one thing that I started to notice also here on Meltdown, and probably I'm influenced by KK's book in that, when he says that at some point Glenn started getting a little sloppy, a little overindulgent in certain things. I think it actually kind of corroborates that a little bit. Like you hear sometimes these like guitar ending getting a little too long and stuff like that. The reason why I brought that up is it might as well be part of the issue with the sound, because in London, for example, you hear in the middle of the solo for Victim of Changes, and you see it also in the video. Basically, you hear the feedback of the guitar getting really ugly, like almost microphonic, not the usual guitar feedback that we all recognize and like. I don't know. I just think that with Rob's return, he changed. He did like a pretty much a U-turn on his sound and stuff. Still getting like more powerful than the 80s Marshalls or whatever, but still regaining a little bit of definition. I think the problem is literally that Glenn's guitar compared to KK is losing definition with this very swollen kind of sound that it seems to be, like John was saying, lower in volume, but it's really like eaten up by the other frequencies.
Yeah. Yeah, because I think I can attest to that a little bit, because it didn't sound like his lead playing was even all that sharp on this. Whereas like on Priest Live or of course Unleashed, there was a sharp precision to it.
Absolutely.
And it just didn't seem like typical Glenn on that one. So yeah, I could see that. I could definitely see that.
Yeah, yeah. By the way, has anybody ever heard rumors about a Dreamer Deceiver version existing from the Jugulator tour?
Mm-hmm.
I never found it, but I
I've
heard.
never found it, but I've looked for it.
Yeah, I've heard this rumor existing ever since this album came out, and I was never lucky enough to find it. I heard it was something related to some Japanese release, but
I've looked for it, and like back in the day of like LimeWire and all the pirating sites, I scour for that thing.
I
tried myself, no luck.
Well, then let me throw this question out, because you just kind of made me think about this. What songs would we have loved to have heard Ripper do?
Blood Red Skies.
Like the guy in the crowd.
Yeah.
Center. Yeah, okay, that would have been one.
This Dreamer Deceiver would have been actually something curious to hear.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the question just came to me, so I'm thinking, well, God, what else would I?
No, it's a good question. Honestly, they do Turbo Lover in London,
and it's amazing.
I think. But I would have loved to hear him sing Out in the Cold.
Out in the Cold would have been great.
Yeah.
His Desert Plains on Live in London, I think, is the best version of Desert Plains too. I really do.
Yeah.
Let's see here. I'm looking to see what we've seen him, what we've got him doing here.
They do Running Wild in London.
Jawbreaker. I don't see Jawbreaker on here.
Delivering the Goods.
Do
you think that's too much of a Rob song?
I feel like that's such a Rob song, and this is maybe I've never been a fan of that. I didn't like it when Megadeth did it. I didn't like it when Skid Row didn't. It's always been like, I don't hate it, but I've just been like meh on it.
Okay, fair enough. Dissident Aggressor.
That would be a good one.
What about Exciter?
Oh yeah.
I would have gone for that. Even though I still think that one's a bit of a Rob song, I would have liked to have heard Ripper sing that.
I would have loved to have heard Love Bites with that crunchier, thicker guitar sound that they had.
Yeah, with that tune down. Yeah, that would have been interesting. Yeah, so there you go. So there's one for you guys in the comments in the live chat. What would you like to have heard Ripper sing while he was in Priest? Hey, did they even do Cathedral Spires on Live in London?
No,
they've never done that live.
They've never even done it live. So come on.
I'm biased here, but I really would have liked Take These Chains Off or Fever. I really would have liked to hear him do Take These Chains Off or Fever.
Okay.
they're simple song, like maybe not like guitar and like lyrically to sing, but bass wise, they're such simple. And again, them, and you've got another thing coming. If you're learning bass, throw those out there. They're good songs, but they're such simple, good songs, man.
Yeah.
I would have loved to have heard them. I'm partial to them.
Well, nothing wrong with that. But so there you have it, folks. Live 98 live Meltdown. Worth checking out, folks. Worth checking out. I don't know if I would say I like it more than Unleashed in the East, but I might almost be controversial and say I think I like it more than Priest Live.
It's better than Priest Live.
Definitely better than Priest Live.
That list alone is better.
Yes, yes. This is a killer live set for anybody who wants to check it out. So next week it'll just be John and I, and we are going to, I'm just going to show you, we're going to be doing a ranking. And then the following week, we're hoping to get as many of the crew back, and we're going to try and do a little grand finale for one big send off on this series. So, which I have these guys to thank. I got, definitely John the Music Nut, because it was his idea to do Judas Priest in the first place. And so I got to thank him for that, because he's been the amazing co-captain here in this whole series.
Thanks,
and this whole and everything that we've done in the last year. Of course, Jake, not from State Farm, which I'm so thankful that I got to meet you in the WASP chats.
Yes.
And then we got you on that show for the WASPs thing. And as then you started espousing your love for Ripper. I was like, that's our man. That's our man for Ripper. And then Manguss, this has been a long time coming, so I'm so thankful you got to finally join us. Please let this not be the last time we have you on, because we would love to do some more stuff with you.
Absolutely.
Somewhere down the line. So absolute joy to get to know you through the chat and the comments and everything. So thank you all for doing this. This has just been an absolute blast. Like I said, like, share, subscribe. You know all the lingo. Thank you for the love on this series. I can't thank you enough for that. Until next week, for John the Music Nut, for Jake Not from State Farm, from Manguss DC, we're going to come back at you with a ranking show. But until then, rock forever. We'll see you next week. Take care, everybody.